Hello, my name is William Porter, and today I will be introducing important usability features that have been implemented for the Blockly C++ project at Quinsigamond Community College. As a current student at QCC, I was introduced to the Google Blockly C++ project created by former student Chris Heides and immediately knew I could help. For those not familiar, Blockly is a library that adds Visual Code Editor to web and mobile apps. Blockly allows for the user to see how code snippets or blocks fit together. The goal of the project at QCC is to create a fully implemented IDE that will display Blockly code as C++ code. The project will accompany Computer Science 1 and 2 course material as a visual tool to aid in the educational experience of future students. While there's still much work to complete on the project, one of the most prominent issues was the lack of features in the user interface. A few major fixes were needed to increase usability and ultimately allow the project to move forward. In the state that was the current project, the user was confined to working with only one file at a time, an obvious pitfall. As users progress through their education, the use of both header and source files becomes essential. Without the ability to use multiple files, the use cases of the project would be severely hindered. Lacking the ability to save, users could not leave their work without fear of losing all of their progress. Adding the option to save files also allows the user to share files. This opens the door for instructors who can receive file submissions for grading purposes. The ability to load files into a new or existing workspace was also yet to be implemented. The option to load multiple files into a project would give users the ability to work with supplementary files needed for assignments. The load feature, in tandem with the save feature, are both needed to allow users to pick up where they last left off, the lack of which was an impasse for anyone wanting to work on larger projects. To implement the use of multiple files, the Blockly C++ project would require the redesign of the current blueprint to allow for multiple workspaces. In order to accomplish this, I would need a user menu giving the option to dynamically create both header and source files of user-defined names, the option to delete files at user discretion, a file access system where users can see all existing files and freely switch between them, a display to know which file is the current file, ability to display the proper C++ code for each file, the linking of the tab system to the active workspace. A well-designed file save feature would have the option to save files to a local directory. Save files would need to be exported in XML format. Save files would need to have the proper name that the user had previously assigned. Workspaces that are saved must be saved individually rather than in one large file, so they can be easily accessed at a later time. For an equally well-designed file load feature to be efficient, I would need a button that will load XML files into individual Blockly workspaces with proper file names, a menu that designates if a new project will be created or if loaded files will merge with existing files, the ability for the user to select any combination of files to load. Loaded files would also need to retain their file names. New workspaces would have to be created for each file, and each new workspace would have the code from its respective XML file read into it. All features were implemented using a mix of HTML, JavaScript, CSS, C++, XML, and Blockly code. HTML buttons, pop-up boxes, and menus are designed to accept user input and pass the input to their respective JavaScript function. The JavaScript functions run code that varies from error checking to dynamically creating and removing HTML elements to inserting code from XML files into the project. Welcome to the live demo. Here I will be showing the file management, the file load, and file save features in action. To begin, I will create a new header file. Simply hover over the Files button and the File drop-down menu will appear. This menu allows the user to create files, delete files, and switch between files. By clicking on New File, we are given the New File pop-up box. Here we can enter a file name and choose what type of file it is going to be. The input is checked to make sure no duplicate or invalid names are entered. For this demo, we will name our first file, File A. And it will be a header file. Once the Create File button is clicked, a new workspace is automatically created. New anchors, HTML elements, are added into the file menu to represent the new files. Now we will place a function into file a.h that returns an int whose name will be file AH. We will add a variable of integer type int named AH and set it equal to 1. We will return AH to complete this function and file. Next, we will create another file named file A, but this will be a source file. We will now add two include libraries, IOStream and string, into the file. We will also add a function that returns void named file A CPP. We will also add a string variable named ACPP and we will set it equal to fileA.cpp. Now that our files are ready, we can switch between them. By clicking on different files, it will show all the code that is in said file. As you can see, the C++ code is correctly generated for each file. Switching between tabs also correctly shows the C++ code. Now we will save the files. By clicking the Save Files button, we are given a warning prompt. By clicking OK and allowing the save, the existing file, main.cpp, and the two files we have created are now saved to XML format. I will now delete the source file, fileA.cpp, it has now been removed from the file menu, and the frame will switch to an available file if the file is selected. I will now remove the code from main.cpp. Now that the code is gone and file.cpp is deleted, I will demonstrate loading using the Merge File feature. By clicking on the Load Files button, I am given the Load Files pop-up box, which gives multiple options. By clicking Merge Files, we are going to merge our loaded files with the current files in our project. Our File Selector window now opens. Here we will select the files main.cpp and file.cpp and click Open. Notice that file.cpp has been correctly added back into the workspace. It also has the appropriate code that is being generated with C++. Also notice that main.cpp has been overridden to include the code that we saved earlier. Lastly, we notice that file A.h is untouched. Now I will delete all existing files. I will now create two dummy files named test.h and test.c++. Going back to the Load Files button, this time I will click the New Project button. I will highlight all three of our files this time around and click OK. Notice that test.cpp and test.h files have both been deleted, and how file a.cpp, file a.h, and main.cpp have been successfully loaded back into the project with the appropriate code. This concludes the Blockly C++ usability live demo. Ultimately, the addition of important features such as the file save and load properties, along with the implementation of multiple workspaces, has drastically increased usability. This will allow the Blockly C++ project to be used in a much broader scope. As for project additions that will be completed in the near future, the terminal system will be connected to the rest of the file system to allow for full interaction between workspaces. The file system will be fully integrated to use Blockly code from future chapters, allowing for class files to be used with source and header files. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching.